Hi, this is Kim White with the My Sexy Business team. I'm here at the Hope to Hope conference with my beautiful co-host, Kristi Bridges from One Moment Wiser. We are excited to be here for the third day. Oh, it's been so fun. I never wanted to stop. I cannot believe it's been like 2 days already, and I'm not wanting it to end tomorrow. I mean, it's like, oh my goodness, it's 4 days. So today's the third day, and our next guest, I'm going to let Kristi introduce her because she's a friend of Kristi's.
Yes.
She's my new princess friend, though. I will say that.
She looks like a princess today, too. So this is my friend, Meg Wienkauf. And I have to tell you, there's more things that I could possibly have time to describe. But the first time I met Meg, she was hosting a study group in her house and just opened her home to strangers. Mm-hmm. And we ended up talking half the night because just before I went to her house, I had been interviewing actually a friend of mine from the International Justice Mission, and Kim was working with Unlock Freedom, which is an organization in Oklahoma that actually I think they're all over the United States now that builds curriculum to teach high school kids how to recognize and sex predators and how to recognize trafficking victims. Mm. And we got to talking all night long, and Meg just fascinated me. And ever since then, every time I talk to her, she's doing something more. And she recently hosted, actually just put together a huge event for an association called A21, which is a trafficking prevention and rescue mission that was started by Christine Kane. So in Tulsa, she had the Walk for Freedom that was through the A21 ministry to kind of raise awareness and support them. And you had police out there talking about the efforts that we've made and the things that they see. And you had counselors out there. You had a whole bunch of people. Meg, that's just a little bit of what you do. But why don't I give you a chance to tell us what's really got you passionate right now? What is it?
And welcome to Hope to Hope.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us.
I'm so excited to be here. We're gearing up for the Walk for Freedom again. It'll be on October 20th, 2018, and those are walks all over the world. So I guarantee there's probably a walk somewhere where you are. And I just encourage you to get involved. The other thing that I am, I guess, passionate about right now, I mean, I definitely am, but I started my PhD journey in January in organizational leadership through Regent University. So I'm super excited about that. And I've had the chance to teach, and I have some preaching gigs coming up and different public speaking. So I'm just excited to be doing whatever God has for me in this season and in the next season, and just trying to be faithful and obedient.
Now, you just spoke at a conference in Arizona, right?
I was in Utah in January.
Utah?
Yes.
Wow.
You've been hanging out with me too much.
Close, but it was great, and we were talking about really a little bit about trafficking, but also how matters of the heart, and how the greatest battle that we'll ever face is in between the ears, and mindset, and then of course hope, because there's always hope in everything, that we can get better and we can grow and learn and become spiritually, emotionally, mentally more mature, and to live out God's calling.
Yes, the greatest battle we'll ever fight is between the ears. Boy, I like that. You're exactly right. Because no matter how successful we are on the outside at overcoming battles, we still have leftovers sometimes from the trauma or the initial ways that we were taught to respond to things.
Yes.
I knew we were related because my first book, the title of my first book is Changing Between My Ears.
Really?
So I knew we had to be princess related somehow.
Well, you know how God works. So this is all for a reason and for probably multiple purposes. But and I can't claim that quote. I don't even know who came up with it, but I've heard it so many times that it's so true. It is so true. Well, I'm excited to read your book.
Thank
more about
you.
it. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, now I'm excited because I don't know a lot. Kristi's been excited about you. Apparently, Kristi's one of the groupies. We
fangirl.
We
same for you. So yes.
Well, and I think that's the sweet part of all the people that have been connected to the Hope to Hope conference is we all are each other's fans. That is the truth. We think that we have the most awesome circle to run in because you guys are so awesome. You come on and we think you're going to be awesome, and then you end up being really awesome. So tell us something that got you to the point of doing that. What went on in your life that created the path that you ended up there?
Oh, I don't even know where to begin. But there was, I will say, the last few years, back in 2015, I left corporate America altogether. My undergrad was in accounting with a minor in marketing, and I have been working in accounting. It was a very safe place for me. I knew I didn't belong there. Whenever you get the feeling you're kind of just getting miserable, and no position can fill the ache, can fill what actually the step that you need to take. And honestly, it was letting go of my will and my plans and fully surrendering to God's will and His plan for my life. And that was one of the scariest things that I've ever done, because I've always had a plan and then executed the plan. I was telling someone the other day, I was like, it's like I was a machine. I was a counting machine, corporate America, getting the tasks done, all these things, but I was compartmentalizing my life. So the spiritual side and the emotional side, and they weren't my life wasn't interconnected like it should be. And honestly, that full surrender is what brings us life. Another friend said, she's like, I never knew that dying to myself would actually give me life. And I can agree and relate with that so much as well. So in 2015, that's whenever I took a big leap. I think looking back, we always learn looking back, right? And those little leaps of faith were leading up to the bigger ones. And there's much bigger ones to come. I know this is only the beginning. But over the last, I guess, a little over 2 years now, God has provided. I would not believe you even 2 years ago if you were telling me what I was doing today. But I'm so glad that I have gotten to the place where a full surrender, and I mean, that's a daily thing too. It's a choice. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I am not perfect by any means, but it's so much better whenever you're living life with Him and following Him.
So you're not just getting your PhD, you actually have been able to see all those bills that would have been paid by that accounting job paid through your efforts as an entrepreneur, right?
Yes, yes, it is. It was. I remember I got a check in the mail from a 401k that had been closed for years, the January of 2016. And the next thing happened, and then I launched the Faithful Leader. So I have a business called, well, I say business, it's like business ministry. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's thefaithfulleader.com. And then I started getting, coaching clients, and God was sending people to me that I was helping with anywhere from first-time leaders to helping people step into their calling. Because how many of us know that whenever we go on this journey, that's whenever we can turn around and we're creating the path for others to go along the journey as well. And then as we lean into, because I mean, I've had trauma in my life, just like everyone else has it. Everyone has it to some extent, but the healing journey, even that, it's allowed others, as I've been open and authentic and trying to be as much as possible as whatever God has, whatever group He has me in front of. You never know how the Holy Spirit's just gonna take your journey and share. But I've had people that say, okay, well, because you've taken this step, because I've seen that courage to be healed and to go on this journey, it's given me the courage to start my healing journey. And I'm like, well, because others in my life have shared their stories and their testimonies and had the courage, that has given me the courage. So it's going back to this whole thing that we are for one another. And as long as we're running, we have to run our race. And that is just the most certainty that I have seen. And that really started, I was working with an executive coach, and I wrote out my own eulogy. It was back in 2015, before I took the little leap that led to the big leap, to save all the details. But I realized in that moment, we don't have very long on this earth. Even the Bible says our life is like a whisper in the wind, and it is. And I, even today, it's just so special being able to talk with you on Good Friday as we think about the life of Jesus and how even in His short time on earth, how He showed us how to live and how to love and how to lead. And that was the kicker for me of, I've got to get going. And it's not that I've got to get going and I need, because yes, of course I have goals, but they're not my goals anymore. They're what God is revealing. And it's kind of like the vision of what's going to happen. And then it's me in partnership with Him.
Yeah.
Carrying that out. But it's Him. It's Him.
So you wrote a eulogy and realized that if your eulogy happened where you were, that it wouldn't say what you wanted it to say. And you needed, I think you said, to live. What did you say you wanted to? There were three words.
Love and lead.
Live, love, and lead. I love that. You wanted to live, love, and lead. And so you began to start doing that. And actually, in the process, you mentioned, dying to self. I think we've been talking about those times when our lives were mapped out. We had the plan we'd written, right? And those plans are written at immature times. You might think we're grown up, but we really don't know what the possibilities are because we haven't experienced enough life. And so we lay down those plans. And a lot of the people we've had on Hope to Hope have lost those plans. Those have been taken away. The child has been gone, or the relationship is broken up. But in your case, you purposefully said, I want a different life. I want to end this life with the legacy. And so I'm going to set down the life that I have now and say, okay, God, how do we create this together? Because He's the one that shows you what to do. Is that kind of what the faithful leader is about? Just helping people learn how we can be, it seems incongruent to say you're a leader and at the same time say that you're not the one leading, you're following. So that's really neat. What's the word for that? I'm an English major, don't remember the word. But that's a neat metaphor, I guess, for that.
You're right. You're right. And that was even, the faithful leader was even a gift from God. And so there was even this time period where it was kind of figuring out, okay, like, what do you want this to be? And I loved at the end of 2017, I was working with a copywriter and he came up with this tagline, you have a calling, live it, I dare you. And because I have a couple of websites that are Dare to Rebel, that point to the faithful leader as well. And it's kind of this essence of rebelling back to Christ, back to God, back to, because how many of, I mean, I know in my life, I had a little rebellious spirit. I'm just going to be honest.
No, I've never been there.
No. None of us. Yeah.
I don't know. Princesses will just admit it.
And I mean, but then we get off of that path, because God's not trying to trap us or control us or anything like that. But he does have the guardrails for a reason. And you know, we live in a time in a world where you know, rebelling in a sense is seen in this good way, but it was like, oh, okay, rebelling back to you, back to what we were made. He's reconciling all of us back to him and then back to people. And that is why none of this can be possible without those people around us. I mean, I am so grateful for the women and the men that God has placed in my path to help me along the way. And I live giving back as well, because if I can help, then I just believe that's what we're called to do. Like, and that's, we're in the place of being interconnected. I see that as a worldwide. Like it's like a thread that God uses to connect all of us. And so if I can help you run your race, like I will be running my race and I will be cheering you on every single step of the way.
That is so important to us, to get over the idea of replacing each other, competing against each other, and to collaborate together. You actually still support Unlock Freedom and A21, both of which are anti-trafficking organizations, but they do complementary things, and you can help both. You can, you know, because it's not about actually helping the ministry, even it's about helping the victims who have encountered predators and not been able to get out, or who have a place in themselves that they can't get out of, and you know, helping them see a different life as possible and worthwhile. And so you don't just say, oh, it's one or the other. For you, it's how can I help everybody get the ultimate goal accomplished? And I see that in so many areas of your life. One of the things that I love about you, you mentioned this to me last time we were talking about how God had, you know, as an entrepreneur and a college student with so many little things, not little, but so many different things going, you know, that's a pretty intense schedule and a lot of upkeep. But you were talking about how you had learned to just be with whoever was in front of you. That moment was the divine appointment. Talk to me about that.
Yes, I love that. I was just talking about it earlier this week, but I want to circle back just real quick with A21. The reason why A21 has such a global impact that it does, and the reason why I see leading in that way of being open-handed and the ultimate goal, like it doesn't matter who gets it done, like as long as the ultimate goal, you know, God's plan is accomplished. And so that really breaks down any kind of jealousy or not collaborating, like that the competition. But that's because Christine Kane and the A21 leadership and the Propel leadership has really poured into my life and the lives of so many, but that has set the example. So they really set the example of what that looks like. And that's the beauty of the Walk for Freedom. We reach out, I mean, our team reaches out to everyone in the community. Faith, you know, the faith community, the non-faith community, organizations, activist groups, like everyone who is trying to come together to end this and really bring freedom. Because that's the other thing. It's not just freedom for some, it's freedom for all. So freedom for the buyers and the sellers and the victims, freedom across the board.
Yes.
So yes, but I am, I know we can all, especially as women, but we all have competing priorities. We all have, I love how Christine Kane has put it. She sees it as a will, that Jesus is like the center of the will, and how the spokes are the different roles in our lives: mom, the daughter, teacher, friend, student, boss, or whatever those are for you. But then the Holy Spirit is the one who keeps the will going, and then and I even see like God as, you know, directing the will. Like it's all
They turn in that axle.
it's all, but I have seen him, you know, whenever you're walking and focusing and keeping your eyes fixed on Jesus, I have seen him give back the time. I have seen him, you know, in this place of, if I'm staying sensitive, and I'm not 100% good at this all the time, but if I am centered on him in the morning, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to follow you throughout this day, not get so caught up in a task list or to do that I'm missing out, like what the Holy Spirit's trying to do. Maybe that there is someone I need to run into, and we need to have that 30-minute conversation. Well, that 30-minute conversation could be for both of us.
Yeah.
It could be to help me with a paper and give me greater revelation of a sermon or whatever is coming.
Mm-hmm.
But it also could be for them too. And so it's really important to get in that place. And that is completely countercultural. So I combat the voices of the world of this 24/7 hustle, and I just like 10 steps to this and 5 steps to that. And we've talked about it over this last week quite a bit, of finding that flow. And at the end of the day, if I have to stay focused on Jesus, because if you don't, we know, and I know that place of overwhelm. Like I can get into my humanness multiple times a day, but I know now, because of the healing journey that I've been on, I know what it's like to be in this place of inner peace. It's really the Ogmandino group has a book called Equanimity, and I love that word because it is this place of peace. And whenever you're there, you can recognize whenever you fall into those unhealthy patterns, and then I have my battle plan, you know, to get me back. Just like it probably looks different for everyone.
Uh-huh.
However, it's really important.
Awesome. You know, and in the process, when you are talking to someone, sorry, I'm taking up the whole conversation here. You're leaving me out. But I just know that in the process of stopping and being aware of the people that are in our path, instead of just eyes on the phone or eyes on the mind on the schedule, being aware of those people in our path, we have conversations we may not have expected. But if we've already had the time, like you were talking about, this time of being centered, the time of thinking, like earlier in our previous time this morning, we were talking about our viewers creating their own hope to hope story, actually spending the time to think about what their lives had endured and what the results were of that. So you actually have you've devoted some time to your own progression, to your own self-understanding and healing, so that when you sit down and have a conversation with somebody, it's a powerful thing.
Yes, and I mean, I would say the same thing for you. And even in the books, you know, that you've written and the sharing, and then that's what it's even more beautiful whenever you have people together that can get into that flow, because the revelations come and the deeper that we're seeking Christ, and you just want more and more.
Yeah.
And that is where we go into those deeper levels of freedom. And I don't know about you, but I'm like, if Jesus can do what he did in me, he can do it in anyone. And it's a weight it's a weight that's lifted. Because you've seen him, you've seen God do and orchestrate. I mean, even yesterday I had a meeting.
I'm so sorry.
And no, it's okay. It's okay. And, I met with a woman who was in town from Houston. Her 10 o'clock was canceled. My 10 o'clock was canceled. We met randomly through a Facebook post or an ad or something. We couldn't even really remember how she reached out through Facebook, but we knew it was a connection. It was a connection for many, many reasons. And who knows how God is going to use that, but I trust that he will. And it was life-giving. I needed that conversation at that moment.
Awesome. Well, you have done so many amazing things in your short life because you are very young, I will say.
Way younger than anybody would think. Not because you don't look beautiful and young, but because you have so much spirit and knowledge.
I'm impressed with the fact that you're organizing something so huge, that you took such a huge leap of faith to come out of corporate into your own gig, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that, that's not for the faint of heart. That is not something, what gives you that courage? Like, what gives you that want to in the morning?
Yeah, that's a really good question. God. Yeah, I think it goes back to what he's done for me, and he has done so much for me that it's the driving force. Like, going back to whenever you experience Jesus, whenever you experience that transformation, you just want everyone else to experience it too. And you're not it's not like you're trying to force it on others, but that's what kind of keeps me going. I mean, I'll be honest, like, there are times that I've been in seasons, that we go through seasons of peaks and valleys. I've been in those valleys, and honestly, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, that had to be God to carry me through. And I think a little bit of it, well, as I've been told, my personality, a very driven personality, but that can be a double, but again, made by God. So he made us uniquely, and he knew the call that was going to be placed on our lives, before we were even born. Mm-hmm. I was explaining it one time too, it's like whenever your will, because I was very strong-willed growing up. Like, my mom even read every book on how to raise a strong-willed child. But now I am like so strong-willed about God's will.
Good. That's cool. So, it's funny that your mom read books on how to deal with you. I love that. Go with a wise mom that knows that she doesn't have all the answers. But, apparently that even passed on to you because you are aware at times that your answers are limited or coming from a limited range of experience. And so you are continuously seeking. What's your PhD? What are you going for?
It's in organizational leadership.
Wow.
And I'm concentrating in ecclesial leadership, so in church leadership, and but you just hit on something that's really good, because I come from generations and generations of people who were faithful and lived out the call that was placed on their lives, and were very driven and strong-willed about God's will, and I saw that in my life. So it's not our capacities are different, and that's okay. I know I've been conditioned this way from birth. It's all I knew growing up was serving, and working and giving to others. Like, my parents were that example. My grandparents, my great-grandparents, they've always been in the ministry some way and had that faith. And so yeah. And you're right. I'm always seeking. Like I love listening and having meeting. I have more friends like over the age of 60, I think, than my and I love it because I'm like, oh my gosh, you lived the history that I am learning about. You lived in this time of like spiritually and even physically in our world, like some of the things that we read about, you lived it. And I want to hear from you. I want to know and have those. That's why I love all kinds of different relationships and all kinds of different relationships, even, with people who are completely different than me, because that's where the beauty happens. And I love it.
I do want to point out I'm only 51.
She'll be your friend anyway. I just want to forgive you.
Yes. And it's just so neat even having the opportunity to sit here and talk to you guys, because you have much more, many years. I mean, not that many though, because I'm about to be 33, so it's not that years.
30s are awesome.
Yeah, I know. Well, see, and that's what I love about this, and I love that you guys are setting this up and how you're doing this, because even the different generations coming together. Can you imagine how much stronger that we are together?
Yes.
And even Kristi, like you have taught me so much about passing down those stories, and that's really the essence of the faithful leader as well. Of whenever the Israelites, whenever they were in the desert, I've been studying this a lot lately. But I keep thinking about how a whole generation did not pass down those stories of faith. Yeah. And I know with me, like if I'm going through something, like I will I'll call my grandma and be like, tell me a faith story. Or I'll read one of the faith stories that I've written down, because we have to keep those in front of us. And I even have a binder now that someone, because if I don't keep that at the forefront, I can very quickly lose sight and not stay in the here and now.
Well, he tells us to remember.
Absolutely.
And remind ourselves of that stuff. And, that's the thing. A lot of people come into writing a book that they come in for vanity's sake. Oh, I'm going to be an author, and I'm going to be this, and I'm going to be that. And the truth is, the book is like for the other person that's reading it.
Yeah.
It's something to be presented to them in a way that's got redemption in it, or entertainment. There's lots of different books. But when you tell those stories and you write them down for the masses to read, that's a pretty cool point to make, is that there is a reason behind writing those stories down.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes when we get into the competition versus collaboration, or the we're afraid to tell our vulnerable stuff because somebody might disrespect us. Suddenly we might not be seen as the all-knowing wise person. We might be seen as somebody that person could have made a better choice than we did. And so we hold back and we only present the polished side, when in reality, that mutual give and take of being vulnerable and saying, yeah, you know what, there was this time I went through this hard stuff, and the other person goes, yeah, I might have done that differently. And that actually gives us a camaraderie, because it's going to turn around another time when we would have chosen differently than them. And we never really know. It might be that sharing those stories and building the camaraderie ends up making us a strong team, a strong combination of people.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. Kim and I have different needs as far as our plans and our life choices. We've done a lot of the same things. We've experienced a lot of the same things. But we also have chosen different paths in some areas that work for us individually. but that's not a reason to disrespect or to judge and say, oh, well, I think you're doing this wrong. You should do it my way. Because we've been able to talk and recognize that the choices we've each made correspond with what drives us personally.
In our own path.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing that I always talk about this, and I think you fit this bill, Meg, that, you know, some people's business is their ministry, and some people's ministry is their business. You know, you have to know who you're writing the story for or telling the story for or speaking to. I think that's a very important part of it. And I can't speak to who you might speak to. So I need you.
Yes.
You know, I need you to come on even this conference and speak to someone who they don't relate to me, but they'll relate to you.
And man, we can leverage each other, but also we can be so much, we can become so much more empowered ourselves when we drop our guard and quit trying to, you know, make sure we're better than everybody else, or quit trying to make sure that, you know, nobody sees our flaws. We drop that and just be us. And continue to minister out of that place, you know, share our stories out of that place.
You want to be perfect, don't do lies.
I know, right? I love it. I love it.
Even my women who come over for Bible study, I mean, there have been, I'm like, if there's dirty clothes, well, it'll be clean clothes, right, on the couch, but well, I put them on the kitchen table before. I mean, you're right. We've got to let people into those places, and even for me, with the hurt and then the healing that I've gone through, it's still God kind of pulling me out. And even, you know, as in point right now, of having these conversations and opening up and being vulnerable in that authenticity, because how is anyone ever going to connect with us if we don't? And he always leads me. I know it might be different for everyone, but he leads me in those moments. And even the fact that I know there will be a book coming in the future, so I'm very excited. I mean, I love you, Kristi, and I also love you too because I mean, I know we just met, but it's even the courage of putting yourself out there in that way. And the quote, you know, if you live by people's approval, you'll die by their rejection. And I think that, I heard that this past week. I'm pretty sure it was on a Propel video. I can't remember exactly. But it really resonates, and that's something that I've been going through of, okay, if I stay in hiding, then it's safe. You know, the same thing with taking the leap of faith out of corporate America. It was very safe. I could calculate my numbers and not live out everything that God has made me to be. I would be very safe in that place.
Yeah.
But he doesn't call us to be safe.
No. And is it really safe?
No, it's not. It's really not.
We think things are. We imagine that if we do everything right, then everything will come to the perfect point and stay there. But we aren't in control.
No, we're not. I had a mentor of mine. Yeah, I was kind of like at this point of just continuing to step into what God was calling me into, some different opportunities and public speaking. Thankfully, I do not have hives right now, but whenever I first started a couple of years ago, I would get hives going up my neck. It was really bad. So progress, right? But it's been a progress of even trusting him. But he was like, will you give people the privilege of knowing you? And I think that was a turning point for me and something that I have just meditated on a lot. That because sometimes the world says, oh, well, if you do put yourself out there, yeah, you know, the enemy distracts you in that way as well, of those voices of like, oh, you're only promoting yourself, or you're only doing this, you're only doing that. And honestly, it does not matter what the world believes. If you, I mean, because none of us can really see another heart, but if you know that is what God is calling you to do, and your motives are right, and you're at a good place in your heart, and in submitting to Him, then it really just, you take that risk of being misunderstood. You take that risk of that. And honestly, people are going to talk either way. You could be saving 1 million children in the world, or not, or doing something else, and people are going to talk, and that's okay, because they're on their journey too. But what I've had to get to the point of is their opinions and what they say can't affect me or who I am. So that's where my identity has had to come to a place in Christ, where and it's a work in progress. I mean, all the time. And I just are refocusing back to who He says that I am, and continuing to do what He's called me to do, and to not hold myself back, maybe because it might be intimidating, or it might not be my full self. You've got to be your full self, and you've got to run your race, because like you said, Kim, someone needs you to run your race so they can run theirs. Kristi, someone needs you to run your race so others can run theirs. And that's why people need me to run my race so they can run theirs, and vice versa. And so we're all doing this together.
And we hang out in the locker room trying to become perfect before the race, and we can delay the race and delay the race and delay the race, right? And delay our part of running, waiting to get to the day where we look good in our gym shorts.
Gave up on that.
I know, right? Or you get out there and you run, and people, you're part of the race, and you do your own thing. I love that. I like that.
We're running out of time.
No!
I know. I hate this, but I do want to speak to you specifically, Meg, about one thing.
Mm-hmm.
When the world is saying those things to you, something, because I have 2 decades on you, something I learned to actually do now. I didn't do it when I was younger because I didn't know, but I would actually write down what they said that was negative, because it was proof that I was on the right path. Because they're not gonna badmouth you for doing something that nobody cares. They're gonna badmouth you for doing something.
I'm just kidding.
Courageous. Well, I have to tell you, I don't know if you've watched the other one, and I've said this like throughout different times, but I actually was told I was too ugly to be used by God.
I know, right?
And
you're beautiful.
Oh, thank you. But I actually, at the time, believed it. Like, I let that impact me and stop me for a little while, because I thought, oh, who do I think I am to be out there and doing something that I think I'm called to do? And then once I realized that was just actually an indicator that I was doing what I was supposed to do, it became fuel for me. It became, so when someone comes on and they're a hater on social media or whatever, sometimes they have a valid point. Sometimes it's something I do need to correct, but a lot of times it's just a proof that I'm actually on the right path. I don't do live video great, but I show up. And that's the thing, is we get to have opportunities to serve, Meg Wienkauf to the world, because we show up. So,
well, and how do you grow if you don't show up?
That's right.
Exactly.
Now,
That was for me too.
I want to give Meg a chance to respond, but before we go, the A1 Walk for Freedom that you said is coming up in October.
Yes.
We want to make sure that we can post a
Connie's
link for
already
how
done
people
it.
can be involved in that. Okay, she's already done it. Great. Go ahead.
It's Connie already handled it.
We've
got Connie Myers behind the scene, and she's on it. She's like got links in the comments, and see.
Awesome.
Now, if someone does want to message you though, or connect with you, she put your website in there, and she put the walk link in there. You know, I know that you're open for that. I just want to say it out loud so that everybody knows that if you enjoyed Meg, we did. Then, connect with her, because she has opportunities, for people to have those connections and collaborate and run this race together. And I love all your terms. Like, I love what you said.
Well,
and with the walk, it doesn't matter where you live. I think they had one in almost every single state last year, and it's in multiple countries as well. So I'm very excited about the Walk for Freedom.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for everything you do, and thank you for being with us today. We are running out of time, but we are but thank you so much, Meg.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. This has been great. Such an honor. I love you guys.
Love you. And if you're watching this, we're going to go into another session at noon. We'll be with Angela Stillwell. She's going to come on at noon Central Standard Time, 1 Eastern Time,
and 10 Vegas time.
I never remember what it's called on that side, so I'm so sorry. But princess problems. But thank you guys for joining us, and we are excited that you're here with us on the Hope to Hope Conference. I'm Kim White with the My Sexy Business team.
And I'm Kristi Bridges with One Moment Wiser.
So join us in just a little bit. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.